You should have a strong understanding of one-point perspective at this point. Now let's introduce two-point perspective. Once again, it's much easier to see perspective at the scale of buildings. If a great way to understand one-point perspective is to think of a city street, then a great way to understand two-point perspective is to think of a city corner. Here you have a horizon line which is clearly visible towards the side of the photograph. But this time you have two clear vanishing points, each one corresponding to a different street. You'll also notice that the buildings and details on the buildings on each street have convergence to that street's vanishing point. It's helpful to realize that any line that's parallel to a street will converge to that vanishing point. Also note that you cannot see the roofs of buildings that are above the horizon line. This will be important later. Also note that there is some slight curving in the convergence in this photograph. That is because it was taken with a wide-angle lens, which can make perspective a little more dramatic than how we see it with the human eye. This is helpful though when it comes to understanding how perspective works. Two-point perspective is not limited to the scale of buildings. Take this conference room, for example. There is still a horizon, and you can see convergence in the glass windows, and even the conference table and chairs. You can even see two-point perspective at the scale of small products, such as this camera. However, in this case, the horizon and vanishing points are far outside the field of view, which makes the convergence much more subtle. This is because we are looking at it up close and from above. Naturally, we would not see the horizon in this situation. Now that you have an understanding of two-point perspective, you can try drawing. This time, draw a city corner. Once again, it's best to establish horizon and vanishing points at the beginning, then block out the major shapes of the buildings before adding any details. Always keep in mind, if you can see the roof of a building that's above the horizon line, the perspective is not correct. You should only be seeing the top edges of the roofs above the horizon. Once you've blocked in the major shapes, you can then begin adding details. Just be sure that the details also converge correctly. Once you've practiced that, you may want to practice drawing a simple product in two-point perspective, like a camera. In this case, you may want to have vanishing points off the page, so you may try adding some subtle convergence without worrying exactly where the vanishing points are. For something like this, it can be helpful to draw the base first and draw through. In other words, draw the entire three-dimensional structure as if it had invisible sides. Once you've constructed the correct form, you can then bring in the actual line work and detail it.